Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. FPL. I'm actually going to be going through my transfer tips ahead of Gameweek 35. We're going to be going through players to buy, keep, sell, and avoid. Before I get into that, I'd like to thank you all guys for your continued support on the channel. I'm at 920 subscribers. I have the goal is 930. So if you're new around here, we're a regular viewer, hit subscribe, make sure you hit that sub button. Make sure you leave a like, make sure you hit that bell with any content going up on the channel. Also, let me know down in the comments your transfers ahead of Unit 25. And those without wasting any much time, let's get straight into it. So first we're going to go through the players to keep ahead of Unit 25. And the first player is Declan Rice. Very surprised to see that he's amongst the most transferred out players already, but I can kind of hear it, kind of a valid point. No goals or assists in his last four, not even from set pieces. All set pieces look like they're coming from Saka's or Madueke's side, and yes, very, very annoying, no attacking returns. But I still think he has a lot to offer. I still give him two or one game week against Sunderland and also maybe against Brentford. I think give him those two fixtures before transferring him out. I think at 7.5 million, I think we have better, decent options out there if you're thinking of transferring him out. But I definitely keep and see how he can perform. He can perform sorry against Sunderland and maybe against Brentford. Then the next player is Erling Haaland. Yeah, not really surprised amongst the most transferred out players because two goals and two goals, two GA in the last five, and at 15 million, that is not good enough. But very decent fixtures coming up for Man City after that Liverpool game where they play Fulham, Newcastle, Leeds, Nottingham Forest, and West Ham. I still think there's a chance of him performing in those five fixtures. So for me, I think Haaland is a keep for now. But if you're thinking of transferring him out, I think it's valid. But I'm not so sure where you're going to spend that money, if I'm being honest, because the midfield, unless you're going for Palmer, you can still have Palmer and Haaland, really. So yeah, I think it's very annoying to have someone expensive as that and not be able to transfer him out because you end up having surplus amounts of money. Then the last player is going to be Harry Wilson. Three goals in his last four, and very, very surprised to see him among the most transferred out players. Good fixtures coming up, and I think for his pricing, of course, depending on the time you bought him, because as for me personally, I bought him on 5.5 million, so he's cheap enough to bench. But we bought him at 6 million, maybe he's not doesn't have that same luxury of being a cheap enough player to bench, but I still think 6 million is cheap enough to bench. And yeah, very good fixtures: Everton, City, Sunderland, Spurs, West Ham Forest, and Burnley. That's what I'm saying. He's cheap to bench because against Man City, maybe Spurs we want to bench him, but I think he's a very decent option. Very good price, cheap, he's on form, set pieces. All against I think he almost scored from a free kick. So I think for me, Harry Wilson is also a must keep. So the three players have gone as players to keep. Now let's look at the players to buy. Then we can move on to the players to buy ahead of game 25. And the first player is Joao Pedro. He's been informed. I think he's the most informed player at the moment. Five goals and assists in his last three games, scoring as well a brace in the Champions League against Napoli not so long ago. I think he's just a must-have at this moment in time. Of course, there's a high chance of rotation, as we saw against West Ham. Did not start. He had to come off the bench, and he still made an impact, which was very, very good to see. But yeah, of course, it's that rotation risk, and I understand it. Maybe going for Enzo, who's rotation proof, is maybe more ideal. But I still like the look of João Pedro. I think it's a risk worth taking. Good fixtures coming up. They play Wolves, Leeds, and Burnley. Those teams are down at the bottom of the league table, and Chelsea they are pushing for top four. I think those are very, very must-win fixtures, and hope that João Pedro is the one who can be able to carry them to those wins. And then we have the second player is Bruno Fernandes. He's been amazing. He's been amazing for United. Every time United are going to win a game, you just know he's going to be at the heart of the attack. Ever since he's come back, five assists in his last four, and now I'm sure he's going to be eyeing that Thierry Henry and Kevin De Bruyne record of 20 assists. I think he's now 8 assists away. So yeah, that's maybe he's made aim, so he's going to be racking up those assists. So definitely a master buy. Good fixtures coming up as well for United, Spurs, West Ham, Everton, Crystal Palace in their next four. So I think Bruno Fernandes is going to have a very, very good time in those the four fixtures. Maybe not Spurs a little bit, but I still think he can have a very good impact against Spurs. And the last player is Gabriel from Arsenal. It's just been amazing for Arsenal. I can't believe it's now 7 million. When he was on the season, it was around 6 million. His price was shot up significantly, and yeah, I think it's a valid price rise for him. Three clean sheets and one goal in his last four, which is very decent for a centre back. And also good fixtures coming up in Sunderland and Brentford. I think very high chance of clean sheet and even attacking return for against a team like Brentford who are not very good defensively from set pieces. So definitely Gabriel. If we don't own him at this moment in time, I think maybe you're not an Arsenal fan, maybe you don't want to have Arsenal players, but I do think he's a must buy if you don't have him in your team. So that's the must buys players ahead of game 25. Let's look at the players to avoid. So now if I look at the players to avoid ahead of game 25, the first player I've gone for there is Thiago from Brentford. Zero goals or assists in his last three has been very, very disappointing. I think he could just come back from having back-to-back braces or hat tricks in the previous two before these three. And I think I'm really surprised to see him amongst the most transferred in players considering that run of form. And also very tough fixtures coming up in Newcastle and Arsenal. So for me, Thiago is going to be an avoid at this moment in time. Maybe after the Arsenal fixture, I think the run of fixtures turns around, and maybe I'd consider him then. But for now, I think he's an avoid. Then we have Rogers. For Rogers, he's just been disappointing. Two assists in five is not really good enough for a player on 7.7 million. If it was an owner, I definitely keep, but if you're not an owner, I definitely not buy at the moment in time. I definitely avoid and maybe hold out and see what's going to happen. I think from game 27, whether we're playing Leeds and Wolves, maybe that's the ideal time to consider buying him. Really, really want him, but for now, I think I'd hold off and see if his form is going to change around or not. Then the last player is going to be Senesi from Bournemouth. Really surprised to see him amongst the most transferred in players, considering many people are just reactionary from that clean sheet against Wolves. But you watch the game, it was not really a good clean sheet. And yeah, because one clean sheet in the last five for Bournemouth is not really good enough. So for me, I think Senesi or just any Bournemouth defender, unless you're going for Hill, who is at I think 3.9 million, a budget enabler, I definitely avoid any Bournemouth defender. So the players I've gone for as the players to avoid ahead of game 25, and then look at the players to sell. So we can look at the players to sell ahead of 25. And the first player I've gone for is Phil Foden from Manchester City. Yeah, poor performance. Rotation risk, I think he's not finished. He's not played more than 60 minutes in the last 3 to 4 games. So definitely, if you still own Phil Foden, definitely a must. And even you can see his form has dropped to 1.4. I mean, I think if you're buying him now, I think you already missed the boat that we all had during his purple patch. Those 6 games were a dream to have Phil Foden, but now I think it's now time to sell and look at other alternatives. Then the next player is John Philip Mateta from Crystal Palace. Of course, potential transfer. When I was recording this, news came out that he's failed his medical at AC Milan. So don't know what's going to happen to him. Maybe he'll get another transfer opportunity, or will he go back to Crystal Palace? What will happen to Strand Larsen? Will there be rotation between Strand Larsen and Mateta? So out of ifs and maybes in that Crystal Palace forward line. So with those reasons as well, I definitely avoid or definitely sell Mateta and just avoid all that commotion. And of course, performances have been very, very poor as well. Not been hitting the same heights we hit when the season started. Then the next player and the last player is going to be Volte Made from Newcastle. Just a rotation risk. Very surprised that Eddie Howe opted to go without any striker and Gordon played at the striking position ahead of Voltemade and Musa. So that just shows how rotation risk that he is. And he's also been very poor in terms of performances for Newcastle in the last couple of months. So definitely a must sell for Voltemade if you still have him in your team. So the players I've gone for in those four categories. Let me know down in the comments what you think about those categories that I've gone through. And if you want to know the fourth player, I'm going to be uploading shorts on that, so you can definitely check those out. If you manage to reach this far, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all guys later. Bye bye.